Chapter 2103. For someone below the martial emperor realm to be able to control several types of laws and merge them together, it was beyond imagination. Not only the ordinary people, but even the great emperor realm old men were shocked. Of course, Lu Ming did not cast the law of chaos. If he did not cast it, of course, they would not be able to tell. If they saw that Lu Ming had mastered two types of ultimate laws, he wondered what kind of expression they would have. Also, this little guy has used a disguise technique. Very clever, a great emperor whispered. It was naturally impossible for Lu Ming's divine breathing technique to deceive a great emperor. However, these great emperors had never seen him before. Although they could see that he had used a disguise technique, they did not know Lu Ming's real identity. Lu Ming sent Mu Yang flying and continued to attack him. At that moment, Mu Yang no longer had any intention to continue fighting. He only wanted to escape. However, he was not willing to rush down the fighting stage and admit defeat. Because if he could pass this selection, he would obtain a great opportunity and be able to break through to the martial emperor realm. I must hold on. As long as I pass this selection, I will be able to enter the martial emperor realm. At that time, I will skin this little guy alive! Mu Yang roared in his heart. However, at the next moment, he was scared out of his wits. This was because Lu Ming had attacked again. He had broken through Mu Yang's defense with one move and bombarded his back. Blood splattered everywhere. There was a huge hole in Mu Yang's body. Of course, such an injury could only severely injure Mu Yang and could not kill him. Mu Yang fell to the ground like a dead dog. His eyes were filled with fear. Now, even if he wanted to rush down the fighting stage and admit defeat, he could not do so. Stop, little guy. Mu Yang is our Mu clan's peerless genius. If you dare to kill him, you will be buried with him. Outside the fighting stage, an expert from the Mu clan shouted at the top of his lungs. Mu Yang was the son of the heavens and had unparalleled talent. He could not die. The Mu clan's expert could not wait to attack the fighting stage and kill Lu Ming. Shut up. Are you going to interfere with the Battle of the Ten Lands? The middle-aged great emperor coldly glanced at the experts of the Mu clan, causing their faces to turn ugly, and they obediently shut their mouths. The middle-aged emperor was from one of the overlords of Destiny City. Moreover, the Battle of the Ten Earths was organized by the great emperors of the various regions. No one had the right to interfere. Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he walked towards Mu Yang. Enough! At this moment, a cold and aloof voice could be heard from behind Lu Ming. An indifferent and arrogant voice could be heard. An extremely powerful pressure was exerted on Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt as if there was a wild beast staring at him from behind, ready to unleash a fatal blow at any time. Lu Ming slowly turned around and saw a young man walking toward him step by step with his hands behind his back. Yuan Xian. The son of chaos, Yuan Xian. Yuan Xian had a slender figure and a handsome appearance. With his hands behind his back, he had an invincible aura. This was indeed the case. He walked on the battle platform as if he was taking a stroll. No one dared to make a move against him. That was because Yuan Xian was known as one of the strongest in the younger generation of the Yuanlu. He was extremely terrifying. Yuan Xian, help me kill him! Help me kill this brat! Mu Yang shouted excitedly when he saw Yuan Xian. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yuan Xian didn't say anything. He continued walking slowly towards Lu Ming. His pace wasn't fast, but with every step, his aura grew stronger. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. He could sense a sense of danger from Yuan Xian. Yuan Xian is about to make a move! Many people's eyes lit up around the battle platform. Even many of the older generation's figures were interested. The son of chaos, Yuan Xian, was famous for his fighting prowess. He was extremely powerful, and the other sons of heaven had to bow their heads before him. He was on par with the Destiny's Child and was known as one of the strongest. Mu Yang and Yuan Xian are good friends. It's normal for Yuan Xian to make a move when Mu Yang is injured. Then Tianyun is in trouble. He has no chance against Yuan Xian. I hope he can last until the end of the selection. Otherwise, it would be a pity if such a genius didn't pass the selection. Many people thought that Lu Ming would most likely not be Yuan Xian's match, and would be defeated. Son of Chaos, I want to see your true strength. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and his battle intent filled the air. Although he had fought with Yuan Xian during the Primal Chaos Sex Assessment, there were many restrictions at that time. Their cultivations were suppressed to the same level. Even their divine skills and bloodlines were suppressed. They couldn't use their true strength. Since you want to see, I'll let you see, Yuan Xian said coldly. He took a step forward and charged towards Lu Ming, throwing out a punch. This punch was as powerful as an ancient divine mountain. It whistled through the air and directly pierced through it. This punch was extremely terrifying. An ordinary one-star martial emperor would find it difficult to block it. Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and his body swayed like a huge dragon. His powerful physical strength erupted completely. His Saint Force surged and blasted out along his arm. It was also a punch. Lu Ming also used the law of death, the law of devouring, and the law of array for this punch. The two fists heavily collided. The entire fighting platform rumbled violently. The void trembled as a terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Some youths nearby were hit by the energy. They vomited blood and were sent flying off the fighting platform. The expressions of some of the stronger geniuses changed drastically. Their figures flashed as they dodged the attack. Both of their bodies trembled and swayed. The first move didn't determine the victor. You have some strength. Let's see how many moves you can take. Yuan Xian's expression didn't change when he didn't push Lu Ming back. The law of primal chaos spread out from his body, making his aura even more oppressive. Boom! Boom! Yuan Xian's fists continued to bombard Lu Ming. Streams of fist force smashed toward Lu Ming like meteorites. Eyes of death! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with radiance. Rays of light shot out like weapons and slashed at Yuan Xian's fist energy. These rays of light didn't only contain the law of death but also other laws. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. It was difficult to determine the victor. Yuan Xian is indeed strong. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Now, he had merged three types of precepts. Although his mastery of the Edict of Death and the Edict of Devouring had yet to reach the limit, when the three types of precepts burst out, in addition to his spiritual body and saint energy, his combat strength was extremely shocking. Yet, it was still difficult to do anything to Yuan Xian. He realized that Yuan Xian's physical body was also shockingly strong. It wasn't much weaker than his. However, Lu Ming still had the law of primal chaos. The law of primal chaos was already at 99% completion. Once he used the law of primal chaos and merged it with the law of death, the combination of the two strongest laws would skyrocket. However, now was not the time to expose it. In the blink of an eye, after a few more moves, the two of them had exchanged blows and both of them took a few steps back. Your combat strength is indeed strong. Unfortunately, your cultivation is too weak. You are no match for me. Up until now, Yuan Xian's eyes finally revealed a glimmer of light. Boom! Chapter 2104. Yuan Xian's aura suddenly skyrocketed, turning into a terrifying howl that swept across the sky. Emperor's aura! Martial Emperor realm! Yuan Xian's cultivation had broken through to the Martial Emperor realm. The spectators around the fighting platform were shocked. They had heard that Yuan Xian had gone into seclusion to break through to the Martial Emperor realm. They had not expected him to succeed and become an emperor. Once he had confirmed his Tao and become an emperor, he would be on a completely different level. Every aspect of him would undergo a metamorphosis and be greatly improved. The Sacred Heart began to evolve into a small world with an endless lifespan. As long as he could survive the tribulation of heaven and earth, he would have the same lifespan as heaven and earth. This was an extreme metamorphosis. A boundary emperor was still a martial sage or a martial sage. After confirming one's Tao and becoming an emperor, one would be a martial emperor. Yuan Xian has confirmed his Tao and become an emperor. This is too shocking. His combat strength was already invincible. Now that he has confirmed his Tao and become an emperor, who can be his match? He is going to sweep through everyone. He might not be. I heard that Destiny's Child has already become an emperor. There might be other geniuses who have also become emperors. Some people discussed, but they were still shocked. Becoming an emperor at such a young age was unimaginable in the past. Vast emperor's aura spread out from Yuan Xian's body, shocking everyone. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Looks like I have to expose my identity, Lu Ming thought. Yuan Xian had already become an emperor, and his combat strength would skyrocket. He had to do his best to fight him. In this way, he would expose his identity. He did not want to expose himself now. After all, many people wanted to kill him. If he exposed himself now, he might implicate Lu Xiangxiang and the others. Although the Battle of 10 Earths had already begun and they would naturally be protected by various experts, it was better to be safe than sorry. Lu Ming did not have the ability to protect himself against high-level illusionary emperors, let alone true emperors and great emperors. If the Heavenly Emperor's physical body had sufficient energy, Lu Ming would not have so many scruples. Now was not the time yet. However, facing Yuan Xian, who had become an emperor, he had no other choice but to fight with all his might. Ha ha ha, Yuan Xian, you have become an emperor. That's great. Kill that kid! Mu Yan laughed excitedly. At the same time, he used all his strength to heal himself. The injuries on his body healed quickly. He then turned his gaze to Lu Xiangxiang and the others. As long as his injuries were healed, he would make Lu Xiangxiang and the others pay the price. Bang! At this moment, Yuan Xian took a step forward, causing the entire battle stage to tremble. A terrifying aura, like 10,000 layers of waves, rushed towards Lu Ming. Break! Lu Ming struck out with a palm, breaking apart Yuan Xian's aura. Stubborn resistance! Yuan Xian coldly spoke. His figure was tall and straight, and right now, he was exuding boundless emperor might. He was even more dignified, as if he was an ancient emperor who was walking in the world of mortals. My hair! At this moment, a Buddhist chant rang out. A monk walked over with a smile on his face. With every step he took, a golden lotus would appear beneath his feet. An incomparably powerful aura also emanated from his body, pressing down on Yuan Xian. This monk was naturally heartless. However, to Lu Ming's astonishment, Wu Liang's aura was clearly that of a martial monarch. Monk Wu Liang had already achieved the martial monarch realm. Even with Lu Ming's wisdom, he could not help but be stunned. This unreliable monk had already achieved the martial monarch realm. An uproar took place around the battle stage. Many people were astounded. Another martial monarch at such a young age had appeared. It was truly astonishing. Yuan Xian's eyes flickered with a stern look as he glanced at Wu Liang and said, You want to fight me? If you let him go, I won't fight you. Wu Liang pointed at Lu Ming. At this instant, Wu Liang's figure was emitting a golden glow. A Bodhi glow appeared behind his head as he placed his palms together in a dignified manner, like a virtuous monk. Do you know him? Yuan Xian asked. I don't know him, but he helped those two kids just then. Wu Liang pointed at Xiangxiang and Ouyang Moli and said, Their master is Lu Ming. To be honest, Lu Ming and I came from the same place. He's my underling. Do you understand now? Monk Wu Liang said in a serious tone. Lu Ming's face darkened when he heard the last part. Since when had he become Wu Liang's underling? Long Chun was left speechless. He and Monk Wu Liang were old acquaintances. Although Wu Liang's cultivation had shocked him, his ability to boast left him speechless. Let's fight then. Yuan Xian was straightforward as he stepped forward toward Monk Wu Liang. Bang! His aura burst out and shook the heavens and earth. He threw a punch forward, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. My hair! Monk Wu Liang uttered a chant as his figure emitted a golden glow. 100-meter-tall golden Buddha appeared behind him. It reached out a golden palm and threw a punch at Yuan Xian. Bang! There was an earth-shattering explosion as terrifying energy swept out. Everyone nearby was sent flying. Even Lu Ming took 2 steps back. The law of cause and effect. Wu Liang has also mastered the law of cause and effect. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Monk Wu Liang must have had a fortuitous encounter after coming to Yuan continent. Or perhaps, he was talented and had not been fully discovered in the divine wilderness continent. Chaotic divine fist! Yuan Xian roared as his aura became stronger. He was like an invincible god of war as he charged toward Monk Wu Liang. Golden Buddha body! Monk Wu Liang put his palms together and murmured. Behind him, the gigantic Buddha golden body turned into a beam of golden light and flew into his body. His body shone brightly with golden light. Even his skin had turned golden, making him look like a golden man. He used the great Buddha palm print and attacked Yuan Xian. Bang! Bang! The two of them clashed continuously and fought fiercely on the fighting stage. Sometimes they were in the east, sometimes they were in the west. Many people were hit by the shockwaves of their battle and were either severely injured or thrown off the fighting stage. Suddenly, a large number of people were thrown off the fighting stage. Some powerful skyprides, such as Yu He and the ancient demon, also used their movement techniques to dodge. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had his eyes on Mu Yang. It was good that Wu Liang had attacked. At least he did not have to expose himself for the time being. Mu Yang's face was ghastly pale. He originally thought that Yuan Xian could kill Lu Ming. He did not expect Wu Liang to appear out of nowhere. Wu Liang's combat strength was so strong that he could compete with Yuan Xian. Now Lu Ming had his eyes on him. This made him extremely depressed, and he could only run away. Where are you running to? Why don't you get off the fighting stage yourself? Lu Ming chased after Mu Yang and sneered. Mu Yang gritted his teeth. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He had been flashing around the edge of the fighting stage. If there was no other way, he would really jump off the fighting stage. After all, compared to opportunities, his life was more important. All right, the battle is over. Everyone stop! At this moment, the middle-aged great emperor arrived above the fighting stage. His powerful aura spread out and made everyone stop. Chapter 2105. It's over? Lu Ming looked around and realized that there were not many people left on the fighting stage. Including him, there were exactly 80 people left. Lu Ming was speechless. He had let Mu Yang escape because of his carelessness. It's over. Ha ha ha, it's over! Mu Yang was overjoyed. He had finally made it to the end and became the last 80 people to obtain an opportunity. When I break through to the martial emperor realm, I will cut you into 8 pieces. Mu Yang stared at Lu Ming and roared in his heart. You're lucky! Lu Ming curled his lips and looked at the remaining people. Bubbles, Lu Xiangxiang, Ouyang Moli, Chiu Autumn Moon, Huan Ling, Longchen, Ouyang Wushuang, Luo Xiang and Luo Tianyi had all successfully stayed on the fighting stage. Other than Lu Xiangxiang and Ouyang Moli, the others had all reached the boundary emperor realm. Moreover, they were in groups of 3. Unless they were targeted by the heavenly children, it would not be difficult for them to last until the end. All right, the 80 of you have passed the selection. Now I will let you rest for a while. After that, follow me. There is a great opportunity waiting for you, the middle-aged great emperor announced. The 80 people on the fighting stage were naturally overjoyed. However, those who had been eliminated sighed and were unwilling to accept it. On the fighting stage, some of the injured people sat down cross-legged and began to heal their injuries. Big brother, thank you for your help. Xiang, Ouyang Moli and the others walked over and cupped their fists at Lu Ming to express their gratitude. You're welcome. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Of course, his voice had also changed. Chiu Moon looked at Lu Ming curiously. She felt that Lu Ming looked familiar. This was her intuition. Soon after, Longqin, Huang Ling, Huang Li and the others also walked over and expressed their gratitude to Lu Ming. Lu Ming originally wanted to introduce himself to them. However, after thinking about it, he held back. It would not be too late to do so later. "In me fa, Longqin, long time no see." Monk Wuliang walked over with a smile. Wuchen and Wuyue were with him. Wuchen's cultivation was at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm. He controlled the laws and was extremely powerful. He was a top-notch genius. Moonless was slightly weaker. Although he also had the cultivation of a quasi-emperor, he only had a king body. "Wuliang, it's been so many years. I didn't expect you to have become a martial monarch." Longqin also greeted Wuliang. "Haha, let me tell you, I'm the reincarnation of a Buddha god, a man destined to fight at the peak. Back in the divine wilderness continent, I wasn't your match because I didn't discover my potential. Now, whether it's you or Lu Ming, none of you are my match." Monk Wuliang laughed out loud and was extremely pleased with himself. "Humph, if my master was here, you would definitely not be his match." Xiang Xiang was displeased when she heard the unscrupulous person belittling Lu Ming. At the mention of Lu Ming, everyone fell silent. "How was he now?" "Don't worry, Lu Ming is an old fox. He's very shrewd and won't die so easily. Other than me, who can barely suppress him, no one is his match," Monk Wuliang said. Lu Ming's eyelids twitched. Was this guy praising him or belittling him? Why did it sound so uncomfortable? Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli glared at Wuliang. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't defeat him, they would have beaten him up. Whoosh! At this moment, Bubbles' figure suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Lu Ming. Her big eyes blinked as she looked at Lu Ming curiously. After not seeing her for a few years, Bubbles still looked like a 2 or 3-year-old, as if she would never grow up. However, her cultivation had progressed rapidly and she was about to break through to the martial monarch realm. "Your brother Lu Ming?" Bubbles suddenly spoke. Of course, Bubble was transmitting her voice and no one else heard it. Lu Ming touched his nose. As expected, he couldn't hide it from Bubble. The top 10 battle beasts were no small matter. "Bubble, it's me. Don't tell anyone for the time being." Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubble. "I knew you weren't dead." Bubble transmitted her voice and her big eyes were filled with joy. Then, she ran to Xiang Xiang's shoulder and sat down. "Let's rest for a while," Luo Tianyi said. Everyone was exhausted from the battle just now. Everyone sat down cross-legged and started to rest. Not far away, Mu Yang glanced at Lu Xiang Xiang and the others from time to time, revealing a sinister look. He was thinking of a vicious plan. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent. He was afraid that if his identity was exposed, Mu Yang would do something that would endanger Lu Xiang Xiang and the others. He seriously suspected that the assassins from the Nation of Death were hired by Mu Yang. Soon, a day passed and everyone was almost done resting. "Come with me," the middle-aged martial monarch ordered and led everyone to the center of Destiny City. The others also followed. They were very curious as to what the so-called opportunity was. Soon, a majestic mountain appeared in front of them. This mountain was so majestic and tall that it pierced the sky. This was Destiny Mountain, known as the most majestic mountain in Destiny City. Legend had it that it was connected to the sky and could lead to the heavenly world. Everyone landed on the Mountain of Destiny. They realized that there were already many people on Destiny Mountain. "Is the Southern War Zone done as well?" A beautiful middle-aged woman looked in his direction. "You're from the Eastern War Zone, but you're fast." The middle-aged martial monarch smiled and greeted her. Obviously, the other party was from the Eastern War Zone. They had also selected 80 top geniuses. The geniuses from both sides sized each other up. Eternal Star River. Lu Ming saw Eternal Star River among the 80 geniuses from the Eastern War Zone. No wonder he hadn't seen him before. He had gone to the Eastern War Zone. "Alright, you guys can rest here. When the time comes, the opportunity will naturally appear," the middle-aged martial monarch said. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They were all guessing what the so-called opportunity was. It could actually help people become martial monarchs. Everyone was excited. Everyone waited here. 1 day later, the geniuses from the Northern War Zone arrived. 2 days later, the geniuses from the Western War Zone arrived. More and more people gathered near the Mountain of Destiny, filling up the sky. At the highest point, there were many figures covered in divine light. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly, but each of them gave off a boundless and unfathomable feeling. Martial monarchs. Everyone's heart trembled. They knew that these people who stood high up and were shrouded in divine light were all great emperors. They might not necessarily be martial monarchs from the divine fate land. There might be martial monarchs from other regions. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Suddenly, a ray of light bloomed in the sky. Then, this ray of light became brighter and brighter. "It's here!" said a martial monarch. Everyone's spirits were shaken as they looked into the depths of the sky. "It's here? What's here?" Everyone was curious. Rumble! The sky trembled. Following which, the crowd saw a path extending all the way toward them. It was an ancient bluestone path that was modeled with time. Chapter 2106. Deep in the sky, a road had appeared and extended downwards, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Where did this road come from? Or rather, where did it lead to? Was the so-called opportunity related to this road? The crowd looked carefully and realized that there was an end to the road. At the end of the road, there was a door of light. They wondered where the door led to. "Everyone, let me tell you what the opportunity is." At this moment, a white-haired elder stepped out from the sky. He was obviously a great emperor and a very powerful one at that. "The end of this road leads to a corner of the world." "Why is it called a corner of the world?" "That's because that corner of the world was separated from the primordial realm when it first opened. It still retains the scene of the primordial realm when it first opened. Over there, the laws are extremely clear and the innate origin chi is rich. Regardless of whether one cultivates the laws or the archaic system, one's cultivation speed will be astonishingly fast there," the white-haired great emperor said. There was an uproar at the scene. It was actually a corner of the world when the primordial realm first opened. It still retained the scene of the primordial realm when it first opened. It was definitely an unimaginable opportunity for cultivation. Opportunity, it was really a great opportunity. Countless people's eyes were burning with passion, including those martial emperors. To cultivate to the martial emperor realm, one had to evolve a small world. Entering the corner of the world when the primordial realm first opened was definitely a great improvement and promotion for the evolution of a small world. It was no wonder that those who entered had a great chance of breaking through to the martial emperor realm. This corner of the world was obtained by an almighty from the void. This time, it's used as a reward for the geniuses who passed the selection. However, this corner of the world is not big after all and has been here for too long. It's very useful for those below the martial emperor realm or low-level illusionary emperors. If one's cultivation is higher, it won't be of much use," the white-haired elder explained once again, causing many martial emperors to sigh. "Go in. You only have 2 years in there. 2 years later that almighty will send you out. How much you can gain in there depends on yourselves. 2 years later the battle of the 10 Earths will truly begin," the white-haired great emperor announced. 2 years, they had 2 years. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He had to make good use of these 2 years. "Now, let's go along this ancient road," the white-haired great emperor said. Whoosh! Whoosh! Following the white-haired martial monarch's words, several figures stepped onto the ancient path and proceeded upward. "Let's go too!" On the autumn moon, Lu Xiangxiang and the others also set foot on the ancient road. Xinghe, Yuan Xian, Muyang, and the others also stepped onto the ancient path and headed into the depths of the sky. The person at the front had already reached the end. He stepped into the door of light and disappeared. All around, countless people were extremely envious. This was especially so for the young geniuses. Their eyes were burning with passion, but there was nothing they could do. This was a great opportunity. They knew that this batch of 320 people would definitely become stronger after 2 years. The gap between them and these people would widen even further. The strong would always be strong. However, no one dared to sneak in. With so many great emperors here, it was impossible to sneak in. Lu Ming also stepped onto the ancient path, ascending step by step. Soon, Lu Ming reached the end of the ancient path and arrived at the door of light. Without hesitation, Lu Ming stepped in. Following this, the 320 geniuses stepped into the glowing door and disappeared into it. At this moment, the ancient path began to retract and enter the door of light. Following that, the door of light also disappeared in the air. "Senior, I wonder which powerful figure obtained this corner of the world?" someone asked. Some of the powerful figures were thinking that if they could pay a visit to this powerful figure and let some of their juniors enter to cultivate, the benefits would be great. "He's from the heavenly realm," the white-haired great emperor said. Everyone shut up. It was actually a powerful figure from the heavenly realm. At the same time, everyone was secretly shocked. Could it be that a powerful figure from the heavenly realm was paying attention to the Battle of 10 Earths this time? "Everyone, come back in 2 years," the white-haired great emperor said. Then, he took a step forward and left. 2 years later, who will rise and fall?" someone whispered. They were looking forward to it. Then, everyone dispersed, and the vicinity of the Mountain of Destiny returned to silence. After Lu Ming stepped into the door of light, the world spun, and in the next moment, he found himself on a protruding rock. What a strong pressure! As soon as he appeared, Lu Ming could feel endless pressure coming toward him from all directions. It was as if there were hundreds of mountains pressing down on him at all times. Bang! Lu Ming tried to take a step forward, and the ground rumbled. Lu Ming's body was as heavy as a mountain. "Is this the corner of the world that the primordial realm first opened?" Lu Ming whispered and looked around. What greeted his eyes was an endless stretch of rocks. There were rocks everywhere, and the ground was bare. There was no vegetation at all, and there were no living creatures either. A desolate, ancient aura swept across the place. Moreover, Lu Ming discovered that the connate origin energy here was unimaginably rich. As he inhaled and exhaled, dense Xiantian origin energy turned into beams of light that shot into his mouth. Also, Lu Ming felt that the laws here were extremely clear. When he spread out his spiritual sense, it was as if his body was bathed in endless laws. Lu Ming channeled his sacred power into his eyes and was shocked. At this moment, everything in front of Lu Ming's eyes changed. Between heaven and earth, there were tiny ribbons swimming, emitting all kinds of light. It was as if thousands of thin ribbons formed this world. Those were the threads of laws, which could only be formed when the laws were clear and rich to the extreme. "The world at the beginning of heaven and earth, this is the world at the beginning of heaven and earth," Lu Ming muttered to himself, his eyes full of surprise. Legend had it that when heaven and earth first opened and all things evolved, the cultivation environment at that time was the best. The laws were clear, and the connate origin energy was rich. Cultivating would be much faster. The middle-aged great emperor was right. This was an opportunity. If a quasi-emperor cultivator cultivated here, their chances of becoming an emperor would definitely be greatly increased. However, when heaven and earth first opened, it was like a desolate world. "The pressure between heaven and earth is too great," Lu Ming sighed. He couldn't fly here at all. Not to mention flying, even walking for a while would probably exhaust the sacred power in his body. The best way was to stay where he was and cultivate quietly. In fact, almost everyone who came in was like this. They all sat cross-legged and cultivated quietly. This was a rare opportunity. They only had 2 years, so they naturally had to cherish it. Chapter 2107. Lu Ming cleared his mind and began to comprehend the primal chaos law. Suddenly, he felt that the primal chaos law between heaven and earth was much clearer than the outside world. With a thought, the primal chaos law between heaven and earth flew toward Lu Ming and surrounded Lu Ming. From the outside, Lu Ming's body was covered in a layer of light, holy and unparalleled. Lu Ming felt that his understanding of the primal chaos law was constantly deepening. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Boom! Lu Ming's aura suddenly erupted and rose. The primal chaos law roared and filled Lu Ming's body. With a thought, the primal chaos law between heaven and earth was easily controlled by Lu Ming. It formed the shape of a river and circled around Lu Ming. The primal chaos law had become a river. The primal chaos law had finally broken through its shackles and reached the perfect stage, forming the shape of a river. When the primal chaos law became a river, it did not mean that the primal chaos law actually became a river. With a thought, the primal chaos law would condense together like a river. Then, the primal chaos law continued to pour into Lu Ming's body, helping Lu Ming to refine his body and saint power. Last time, when the primal chaos law had reached perfection, Lu Ming already had experience. This time, it was a walk in the park. 2 days later, Lu Ming's aura completely stabilized. My strength and saint power have both skyrocketed. Lu Ming carefully sensed the changes in his body and revealed a look of joy. The strongest primal chaos law had become a river. Stepping into the boundary emperor realm, the refinement of the body and saint power was much stronger than the primal chaos law. Last time, when the primal chaos law had broken through, his body and saint power had also improved. But this time, the improvement was even greater. In his dantian, the saint heart was crystal clear and filled with endless saint power. As the saint heart spun, endless saint power poured into his meridians like a river. There was a faint glow circulating in Lu Ming's body. It was filled with endless power. Powerful! Too powerful! Lu Ming felt that his combat strength had skyrocketed again. Now let's begin to comprehend the death law and devour law. Lu Ming looked expectant. If the death precepts and the devouring precepts were both perfected, how strong would his body and saint power be? Lu Ming was filled with anticipation and began to comprehend. This world was indeed blessed by the heavens in terms of comprehension of laws. It was much faster than the outside world. Not only that, but this piece of heaven and earth was left behind when the primordial realm was first formed. It was of great help to the evolution of a small world. However, Lu Ming had not reached the stage of breaking through to martial emperor yet. Cultivation knew no time. Under Lu Ming's single-minded cultivation, time flew by. In the blink of an eye, another half a year had passed. In half a year, Lu Ming had successfully cultivated the death law and the devouring law to 99% completion. This speed was already astonishingly fast. In the outside world, it would take at least 5 years to achieve such a feat. However, after raising it to 99%, it would be very difficult to cultivate it to perfection in one go. It would take time to accumulate. At that moment, Lu Ming began to think. He wanted to cultivate other nomological laws. What laws should I cultivate? Lu Ming frowned and thought carefully. After all, he could cultivate many kinds of laws. When the laws were combined, it would greatly increase his strength. Moreover, comprehending the laws in this world was too fast. He did not want to miss it. He wanted to comprehend other laws. The law of force. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming decided to cultivate the law of force. The law of force was the ultimate power. It would allow his every strike to carry a terrifying force. Moreover, Long Qin and Huang Li both cultivated the law of force. Lu Ming had sparred with Long Qin and Huang Li many times. He had a better understanding of the law of force. It would be easier for him to comprehend it. Moreover, as more laws were perfected, Lu Ming's body and saint power would become stronger. In addition to the law of chaos, which was as heavy as a mountain, his attacks would become more ferocious and overbearing. If he added the law of force, his attacks would be even more terrifying. Lu Ming began to seriously comprehend the law of force. This world was indeed different. In just a few days, Lu Ming felt that he had grasped the knack of it. He became more serious in comprehending it. More than 10 days later, Lu Ming really did comprehend the law of force. When he threw a punch, it carried the power of the limit. Its power was shocking. From then on, he comprehended the law of death, the law of devouring, and the law of force at the same time. He alternated between comprehending each for a few days. In this way, another 3 months passed. The law of devouring was finally perfected. The law of force formed a river. Lu Ming's body and saint power were greatly strengthened again. 3 months after the breakthrough of the law of devouring, Lu Ming had been here for more than a year. The law of death had also broken through. The law of force formed a river and reached perfection. His body and saint power were once again tempered. Now, Lu Ming felt that his saint power was surging. It was terrifyingly powerful. His physical body was filled with explosive power. He felt that he could now destroy a one-star martial emperor with just the power of his body. This was not an illusion. He was really too strong. Lu Ming did not know how strong he was now. The 4 laws were all perfected. The law of force formed a river. 2 supreme laws and 2 monarch laws. His body and saint power had been tempered 4 times. The power of the 4 perfected laws was absolutely terrifying. In addition, Lu Ming had also cultivated the law of force to an extremely high level. He was not far from the law of force formed a river. When Lu Ming had been here for a year and 3 months, his law of force had also broken through and reached perfection. Lu Ming's combat strength skyrocketed again. Bam! Bam! Lu Ming cast the Chaos Divine Palm and moved freely. The 5 types of laws merged, and there was a rumbling explosion in heaven and earth. It was as if a large bell was vibrating and was about to explode. Awesome! Awesome! After a long time, Lu Ming stopped and let out a long breath. His eyes were shining. The pressure of this world was incomparably great. However, Lu Ming's body was now too strong. He felt that he did not need saint power. He could withstand it with his body and travel far away. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. The perfected laws don't seem to be the true perfected laws. Then, Lu Ming considered the problem of the laws. He had comprehended 5 laws in a row. He realized that the so-called perfected laws were only at a certain stage. It was not the end and he could continue to break through. In fact, he had heard Uncle Kong mention that the laws were the foundation of the world. They were very profound and were far from simple. The so-called perfected laws of quasi-emperors were only the first stage of perfection. The comprehension of the laws was divided into several stages. However, it was very difficult to break through. Ordinary void emperors would find it difficult to break through. However, Lu Ming only thought about it for a while and did not think about it. He was still some distance away from breaking through to martial emperor. I have already been here for a year and 3 months. There is not much time left. I will not comprehend the other laws for now. I will consolidate the 5 laws and reach the stage where I can break through to martial emperor as soon as possible. Chapter 2108. Lu Ming entered a selfless state of cultivation. All the geniuses who entered this place had great gains. Boom! A 2 or 3-year-old girl's aura soared as she sat on a rock. Her emperor's might spread out like a deep sea. Soon, a lightning tribulation descended, but this little girl easily passed it. I finally broke through to martial emperor. Chirp! The little girl muttered. This little girl was none other than Bubble. In another valley, a lightning tribulation also surged. Soon, the lightning tribulation disappeared, and a youth appeared. It was Mu Yang. At this moment, a strong aura spread out from his body. That was Emperor's might. He had also broken through to martial emperor. Ha! I finally broke through to martial emperor. The next time I meet that brat Tianyun, I will definitely grind his bones to dust. Mu Yang laughed loudly, brimming with confidence. After breaking through to martial emperor, his strength had soared. He was 100% confident that he could kill Lu Ming. Of course, he did not know that Tianyun was Lu Ming. He only thought that it was Tianyun. They were not the only ones. Many people had broken through. Imperial River, Hangxinghe, Death Blade, Gelong, these azure children were originally quasi-emperors. After accumulating in this place for so long, They all broke through their shackles and stepped into martial emperor. In fact, even some people with king bodies made breakthroughs and became martial emperors. There was a huge gap between quasi-emperor and martial emperor. It was extremely difficult to break through, requiring a long time to accumulate. If it were outside, it would not be so fast. Without 10 years of accumulation, it would be very difficult to break through. However, in this place, many people broke through in just over a year. This was a great opportunity. As for Yuan Xian and Wu Liang, who were already martial emperors, they took another step forward, their cultivations becoming stronger. Everyone was improving, and their strength soared. In the blink of an eye, 1 year and 8 months had passed since they entered this place. At this moment, Lu Ming stopped cultivating. He felt that his cultivation had reached a limit. He planned to take a break before trying to break through to martial emperor. This place is filled with energy. I wonder if there are any natural treasures. Why don't I check it out? Lu Ming started thinking. Others could not travel far, but he could because his physical body was too strong. He wanted to walk around. In particular, he found that this place was not flat. There was a slope, and he was in the middle of the slope. He wanted to follow the slope to the top to take a look. Lu Ming started to move. He followed the slope and went up. The slope here wasn't steep, but it did go straight up. Lu Ming also found that the higher it went, the greater the pressure. Although this increase was not large, it was indeed slowly becoming stronger. However, with Lu Ming's physical strength, he could still withstand it. Lu Ming walked along the slope for 3 days, but he didn't find anything. Everywhere was smooth and there were no living creatures, nor did he find anyone who came in from the outside. Lu Ming guessed that the people who came in from outside might be at the bottom of the slope. Lu Ming walked for another day. He suddenly realized that the ground had become flat. He seemed to have reached the highest point. As far as the eye could see, there were protruding rocks in front of them, like small hills. Of course, there were also some peaks, but there was no vegetation. And here, the origin energy of heaven and earth seemed to be denser. Lu Ming went forward. He was still unwilling to give up and wanted to search. Soon, he came to a valley. There's someone! After entering the valley, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he saw 2 figures. 2 young men, who looked to be in their 20s, were sitting there cross-legged. These 2 people were very unfamiliar. Lu Ming definitely had not seen them before. They were not any of the 320 people who came in. That was because when they were waiting on the Mountain of Destiny, the 320 people had all looked at each other. With their memories, they would have an impression of each other as long as they saw each other once. However, Lu Ming did not have any impression of these 2 young men. One of the 2 young men was dressed in a black robe. He had pitch black hair and a cold expression. The other young man had long purple hair and was extremely handsome. He had an indescribable temperament that made it hard for people to forget him after a single glance. Who are they? Why are they here? Lu Ming was very puzzled. Apart from the 320 people, there were others who came in. At this moment, the 2 young men also saw Lu Ming and looked at Lu Ming in surprise. Who is he? He's very unfamiliar. I've never seen him before, the black-haired young man said with a cold and arrogant voice. The purple-haired young man looked thoughtful. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, Could he be a prodigy of the primordial realm? Recently, I heard that some prodigies of the primordial realm have also entered this world to cultivate. Hearing the conversation between the 2, Lu Ming was shocked. What did he mean? The purple-haired young man said that he was a prodigy of the primordial realm. Could it be that he was not from the primordial realm? Could he be from the heavenly realm? Lu Ming immediately thought of the heavenly realm. But why would someone from the heavenly realm appear here? Where are you from? Heavenly realm? Or the primordial realm? The black-haired young man seemed to show a hint of interest. The primordial realm. May I ask who you are? Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, As expected, you are from the primordial realm. I didn't expect that there would be someone from the primordial realm who could come here. It seems that your cultivation is not weak. I'm really curious. What is the cultivation of a prodigy of the primordial realm? The one who spoke was still the black-haired young man. After saying that, the black-haired young man got up. His eyes were full of fighting spirit as he stepped toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming was surprised. It seemed that these two people were really from the heavenly realm. At the same time, Lu Ming was also speechless. They had just met and the black-haired young man looked like he was about to attack. Boom! The black-haired young man stepped forward, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. It was the Emperor's aura. The black-haired young man was a martial emperor. Come on, let me see your strength. The black-haired young man's footsteps became faster and faster. In the end, he turned into a black lightning bolt and rushed toward Lu Ming. At the same time, he blasted out a palm. A terrifying palm force blasted toward Lu Ming. The power of reincarnation. This is a son of heaven. Lu Ming's eyes moved. The black-haired young man's palm contained the law of reincarnation. Boom! Lu Ming also made his move and similarly blasted out a palm. The two people's palms blasted out, and a rumble erupted. The entire valley shook. Not bad again. The black-haired young man's palm continued to strike out. He struck out dozens of times in a row, and the power was extremely shocking. Lu Ming used the law of primal chaos to fight against his opponent. After dozens of moves, it was difficult to determine the winner. A mere quasi-emperor actually has such strong combat strength. Your physical body is so strong. Impossible. Could it be that you are a primordial body cultivator? No, that's not right. How could a primordial body cultivator cultivate the law? The black-robed young man spoke continuously, full of surprise. Even the purple-haired young man looked at Lu Ming with some surprise. This guy is so strong. Lu Ming was also quite shocked. Chapter 2109. You're not weak either, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming was just speaking the truth, but the black-haired youth was not happy. His cold and arrogant face became gloomy, thinking that Lu Ming had underestimated him. Kid, I didn't use my full strength just now. Do you think you can compete with me? I'll use my full strength now. Let's see how many moves you can take, the black-haired youth said coldly, and his aura became even more oppressive. At this moment, the purple-haired youth said, Junior brother, don't make a move. Time is almost up. The black-haired youth's face changed. He looked coldly at Lu Ming and said, This time, I'll let you go. After saying that, he turned and left, stepping into a cave with the purple-haired youth. There was a cave in the depths of the valley. It seemed that the two youths had been waiting outside the cave for something. It seems that there's some kind of treasure in this cave, Lu Ming thought. After thinking about it, Lu Ming still did not go in. The two youths were obviously peerless geniuses of the heavenly realm. Lu Ming did not want to offend them for no reason. I'd better leave first and go elsewhere to take a look, Lu Ming thought to himself, then turned and left the valley. At this moment, he could not calm down. It seemed that this place was not simple. There were geniuses of the heavenly realm. Could it be that this corner of the world was not taken out by the elites of the primordial realm, but by the elites of the heavenly realm? Lu Ming's imagination ran wild. After that, Lu Ming walked for another 2 days and finally found a strange place in a kernel. There was a spring that looked like a devil's pool or a spirit's pool. Connate origin chi was constantly emanating from it, and the energy was shockingly high. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He planned to let the Celestial Emperor's body absorb the energy here. As long as the energy of the Celestial Emperor's body reached a certain amount, he would be able to control it. He would not have so many scruples when doing things. Immediately, Lu Ming took out the Celestial Emperor's corporeal body and operated the technique to control the corporeal body of heaven and earth. He began to absorb the energy here. This place was filled with innate origin energy, and the energy was frighteningly abundant. As soon as Lu Ming activated the method to control the Sky Emperor's body, the incomparably rich energy from all directions converged towards the Sky Emperor's body. Moreover, the quality of the energy here was also very high. The energy storage of the Celestial Emperor's body was rapidly increasing. At all times, he could feel the energy in the Sky Emperor's body increasing and strengthening. In a short few days, the energy of the Heavenly Emperor's physical body reached 10%. When it reached 10%, Lu Ming would be able to control it. Lu Ming was overjoyed. However, he did not stop. He continued to control the Celestial Emperor's body and madly absorb the energy. Since there was so much energy here, he might as well absorb more of it. The more energy stored, the more powerful the Celestial Emperor's physical body would be. A month later, the energy here had almost dried up. It had been completely absorbed, and the energy in the Celestial Emperor's body had reached an astonishing 36%. One must know that previously, the highest amount of energy stored in the Celestial Emperor's body was only 16%. The power of 36% was absolutely terrifying and astonishing. It would be great if I could completely replenish the energy of the Celestial Emperor's body. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and he was very tempted. If the energy of the Celestial Emperor's body reached 100%, then in the era when the Celestial Emperor did not appear, he would really be able to do whatever he wanted. Thinking of this, Lu Ming's heart burned with passion. He immediately set off to look for other similar springs. Unfortunately, this kind of spring was extremely rare. Lu Ming searched for a few days in a row, but he did not find any. Lu Ming did not give up and searched for a few more days. After searching for more than 10 days in a row, Lu Ming finally gave up. Time was precious here, and he could not afford to waste any time. Lu Ming began to prepare to break through to the Martial Emperor realm. He found a secluded place, sat cross-legged, and adjusted his state. A few days later, his state reached its peak, and his essence, qi, and spirit were perfect. Lu Ming began to break through to the Martial Emperor realm. To break through to the Martial Emperor realm, one had to use the Saint Heart as the core and the laws as the core to evolve a small world. The laws were the foundation of a small world. With the laws, the small world could be constantly perfected. Therefore, first, one had to use the laws to evolve the heart of the world in the Saint Heart. Then, the heart of the world and the Saint Heart combined to evolve the small world. It was as if the world was being created. Normally, when people broke through, they would use one kind of law as the core to evolve the heart of the world. After breaking through to the Martial Emperor realm, one would comprehend other laws and add other laws to the small world. The more laws added, the more the small world would be perfected. However, Lu Ming controlled 5 kinds of laws, so he had to use the 5 laws to evolve the heart of the world. Otherwise, if he only used one kind of law, it would be impossible for him to succeed. Begin! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He controlled the 5 kinds of laws and sent them into the Saint Heart to evolve the heart of the world. However, at this moment, his body shook violently, and he felt as if his Saint Heart was about to burst. Even his body felt like it was being torn apart by an energy. He quickly stopped and spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. How could this be? Lu Ming's face turned ugly. When he broke through, the 5 kinds of laws entered the Saint Heart and clashed with each other, creating a terrifying force that almost exploded the Saint Heart and tore his body apart. Could it be that those below the Martial Emperor realm who cultivate many kinds of laws can't break through to the Martial Emperor realm? No, I don't believe it. Lu Ming began to adjust his breathing and heal his injured body. A few days later, his injuries were healed and he tried to break through to the Martial Emperor realm again, but he still failed. Impossible. I'll try to evolve the heart of the world with one kind of law. Lu Ming was unwilling to give up and wanted to change his strategy. However, he still failed. Because of the 5 kinds of laws, when he controlled one kind of law to evolve in the Saint Heart, the other 4 kinds of laws automatically entered. He couldn't control them even if he wanted to, and Lu Ming was injured again. How could this be? Lu Ming whispered, extremely unwilling. If he couldn't break through to the Martial Emperor realm, it would be a huge blow to him. No, maybe my cultivation isn't enough and I need to consolidate. Maybe there are other ways. I can definitely become a martial emperor. Lu Ming clenched his fists and took a deep breath to calm himself down. Maybe it wasn't time to break through to the martial emperor realm yet, so he would wait for a while. However, Lu Ming naturally didn't dare to comprehend new laws now. The more laws he comprehended, the harder it would be to break through to the martial emperor realm. There's still some time. Why don't I comprehend the use of laws? I control 5 kinds of laws. If I can create a corresponding divine skill, its power will definitely skyrocket. Lu Ming put aside the matter of breaking through to the martial emperor realm and began to think about his own combat strength. Now, his divine skills were all based on a single law, such as the chaotic divine palm, chaotic calamity finger, eyes of death, and the 3 scrolls of array principles. Moreover, the so-called fusion of laws was just a rough fusion of laws to strengthen their power. Chapter 21:10. To put it bluntly, Lu Ming was using laws now as if he was using brute force. He did not unleash the wonders of laws at all. He heard Uncle Kong say that after reaching martial emperor, one could comprehend many kinds of laws. Different people would naturally have great differences in the laws they comprehended. The fusion of different laws would also give rise to different divine abilities. Those divine abilities contained several different kinds of laws, and their power was shocking. It was not something that a single law divine ability could compare to. A single law divine ability could only be considered a low-level divine ability. Some laws contained many kinds of divine abilities, and their power was simply earth-shattering. Above martial emperor, there were some ancient scriptures that had corresponding records. However, those ancient scriptures were shockingly valuable. There's only a single law divine ability in the chaos scripture. That's not right. Lu Ming thought of the chaos scripture. He guessed that the chaos scripture he obtained was incomplete. Logically speaking, the chaos scripture was the inheritance left behind by the chaos emperor. It definitely did not only have low-level divine abilities. It definitely had different laws and divine abilities that fused with the chaos law. Perhaps, the chaos scripture I obtained is really incomplete, Lu Ming pondered. He did not have the corresponding divine ability in his hands, so he could only rely on himself to explore. In the following time, he focused on exploring the use of fusion between different laws. Time passed very quickly. 2 years were almost up. After several months of exploration, Lu Ming finally had some gains. He discovered that it was too difficult to comprehend any divine ability between the chaos law and the death law. It was not just a saying that the strongest laws were incompatible. However, Lu Ming had created 2 different types of divine powers. Their powers were astonishing. They were respectively the fusion of the chaos law, the array path law, the devour law, and the strength law to create a divine ability. Lu Ming named it Chaos Hammer. When using this move, he could condense a giant hammer with astonishing power. In addition, with the fusion of the death law, the devour law, the array path law, and the strength law, he created a divine ability. Lu Ming named it Death Sword. After using it, it formed a battle sword that cut through everything. Of course, this was only a preliminary comprehension. The power of the various laws was not fully unleashed. To be able to reach this step in such a short time, Lu Ming's comprehension was already extremely terrifying. As he slowly cultivated and comprehended it in the future and perfected it, the mysteries of the various laws would erupt. The power of these 2 moves would become stronger and stronger. However, although it was only a preliminary comprehension, it was much stronger than purely relying on the fusion of laws. This allowed his battle prowess to increase tremendously once again. After entering this world for 2 years, Lu Ming's combat ability had improved tremendously. It's almost time! Lu Ming looked up at the sky. Buzz! All of a sudden, a powerful force acted on Lu Ming's body. Given his current strength, he was still powerless in the face of this force. His body disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he realized that he had appeared in a void. In front of him, there was a huge door of light. Beside him, figures flashed and appeared one after another. Autumn, autumn, bubble, bubbles, 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 bubbles. He also saw Yuan Xian, Mu Yang, and the others. When Mu Yang saw Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. This time, he was full of confidence. He had become a martial emperor, and his strength had skyrocketed. He was confident that he could kill Lu Ming. Many people's eyes were filled with confidence. Everyone had improved greatly. Go out! A voice suddenly came from the sky. It sounded very old. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They knew that the owner of this world had spoken. He was definitely a terrifying expert. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had more thoughts. He had seen two geniuses from the heaven domain. The owner of this world was most likely from the heaven domain. Everyone stepped into the door of light and disappeared. Destiny Mountain. During this period, countless people had gathered. There were even more people than 2 years ago. 2 years had passed. The Battle of the 10 Lands was about to begin. Also, 320 geniuses had entered the world left behind by the primordial world. How much had they gained? How much had their strength improved? Could it be that many people had already stepped into the martial emperor realm? Everyone was very curious. In the sky above the mountain peak, figures shrouded in divine light stood there like gods. These were all martial emperors from all over the world. Uncle Kong had arrived at the primordial mountain and stood together with martial emperor Wu Xiang. In addition, martial emperors Heng, He, and Tian Luo had all arrived. Not only that, but many experts from the various sacred grounds had also come. For example, the ancient Moon's sacred ground had sent people to participate in the first battle of the 10 lands since the ancient times. Everyone was waiting quietly. Suddenly, a door of light appeared in the sky. They're coming out! Everyone revealed a look of anticipation as they looked at the door of light. Not long after, figures walked out of the door of light and stood in the void. 320 people, not one more, not one less. There has indeed been great progress. Many people have stepped into the martial emperor realm. The martial emperors and true emperors looked carefully, and revealed a look of shock. Given the cultivation level of a great emperor and a true emperor, it was not difficult for them to see through the cultivation level of Lu Ming and the rest. All right, 2 years have passed. The Battle of the 10 Lands will now begin. Everyone, step back a little! A white-haired old man stepped out, his voice echoing in all directions. He was the host of this gathering, an old monster from Destiny City. Everyone retreated, including the martial emperors, leaving the Destiny Mountain empty. The white-haired old man waved his hand and light filled the sky above the mountain. Stone platforms appeared out of thin air. Each stone platform was very large, like a battle stage. There were a total of 320 pieces. The next competition is very simple. Each of you will choose a stone platform and step on it. There are formations set up on these stone platforms, and they operate according to their own rules. As soon as you step onto them, the stone platforms will move. Whenever 2 stone platforms collide with each other, the 2 participants will face off against one another until the top 10 are determined. The white-haired old man announced. Everyone's eyes flashed. So that was the rule. But didn't this rule have a lot to do with luck? However, many people had confident looks in their eyes. They were confident in their own strength and believed that they could defeat any opponent they met. This time, everyone had gained a lot. They were all eager to show off their strength in front of countless people. I'll go first. Someone moved. A tall and sturdy figure rushed onto a stone platform. Whoosh! 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 Chapter 21:11. Lu Ming also casually chose a stone platform and stepped onto it. When Lu Ming stepped onto the stone platform, he discovered that there was a force on the stone platform that enveloped his entire body. In the blink of an eye, a person stood on each of the 320 stone platforms. Then, all the stone platforms slowly began to move as if they had formed some kind of pattern. Soon, 2 of the stone platforms flew toward the center and collided with each other. On the 2 stone platforms, the gazes of the two youths collided, both filled with intense battle intent. Boom! Boom! Powerful auras erupted from both of them, as if a long river surrounded their bodies. Quasi-emperors. Both of their cultivations were at the quasi-emperor realm. It's one of the monarch Tao's laws of destruction. Both of them are the same. Someone cried out, recognizing the laws of both of them. The two youths actually controlled the same laws. We both control the law of destruction, but you're not my match, one of them said, very confident. You're the one who's going to lose. The other person was also very confident. Boom! The two of them engaged in an intense battle. Both of them had reached the quasi-emperor realm, and their combat strength was astonishing. Moreover, they had grasped the same kind of law, and their cultivation was similar, so their combat strength was not much different. The two of them fought fiercely, and the battle continued for more than 200 rounds before the victor was decided. In the end, one of them was slightly better and defeated his opponent, sending his opponent flying out of the stone platform. After his victory, his stone platform brought him back to the center of the others, while the stone platform of the defeated person turned to dust and dissipated. The defeated person was very unwilling to accept this. He became the first person to be eliminated in the Battle of 10 Lands. There was a simple rule for this competition. That was, one could admit defeat before the competition. If one did not admit defeat, once the battle began, one would be responsible for one's own life and death. Of course, one could also rush off the stone platform and admit defeat. After the first round ended, the stone platforms began to spin again. Soon, 2 more stone platforms flew toward the center and collided with each other. Boom! The two youths on the stone platforms directly engaged in an intense battle. Without a doubt, they were also 2 people with the monarch Tao. In fact, those who could enter the top 80 in each battle zone were all people with the monarch Tao, and their cultivation was not weak. After cultivating for another 2 years in that world, the weakest of them all advanced to quasi-emperor. What was surprising was that the nomological laws that these 2 monarch bodies controlled were the same. Could it be because of the stone platform? Lu Ming thought of the stone platform. Previously, when he stepped on the stone platform, there was a wave of energy that enveloped him. Would that energy be able to sense the laws? Or perhaps, there were other uses. Not only Lu Ming, but the others also thought so. As expected, the majority of the people who fought next all grasped the same laws. This was to let those with the same type of law determine the victor. So powerful, they are all quasi-emperors. Moreover, he's already at the stage where he's about to evolve a small world. He's about to become an emperor. Many people sighed. Indeed, in these 2 years, everyone had made great progress. Many people had not become great emperors, but they were not far from it. Some of the youths were especially envious. There were some people whose cultivation levels were about the same as theirs before, but now, the gap between them had completely widened. Some people were still stuck at the peak of the absolute saint realm. Even though there were a few who had broken through to the quasi-emperor realm in the past 2 years, they were still far from evolving a small world. The battle was very intense. In each battle, the difference in cultivation levels was not big. Moreover, the laws were the same. At least 100 moves were needed to determine the victor. Half a day later, only 10 pairs of people had fought. In the 11th battle, Lu Ming saw a familiar face. Long Qin. Moreover, Long Qin had already broken through to the martial emperor realm. 2 years ago, he was already a quasi-emperor. It was normal for him to take the opportunity to break through this time. His opponent was also a martial emperor who controlled the law of force. The two of them clashed with each other. However, in the end, Long Qin cultivated the immemorial dragonesque elephant body. His combat strength was stronger, and he defeated his opponent in a violent manner. This was the first time that there was such a great disparity in strength between 2 people of the same law and the same level. The bloodlines of the top 10 battle beasts are indeed extraordinary. Indeed, it is said that the further they advance, the more extraordinary they are. After reaching the martial emperor realm, they will be even stronger. Some of the older generation people discussed. The battle continued. After that, Lu Ming saw that Huang Li, Luo Xiang, Autumn Moon, and the others had gone up one by one. Huang Li, Luo Xiang, Autumn Moon, and the others had indeed broken through the shackles and reached the martial emperor realm. They were one-star illusionary emperors. They had also defeated their opponents. However, the crowd could also see that most of the battles were of the same law. However, it was not absolute. There were also battles between different laws. It was very exciting. Lu Ming was dazzled by the various laws of the King Tao. This was indeed a great era. In the past, there were very few laws of the King Tao. However, they had all appeared now. The battles continued for a few days and people were constantly eliminated. There were no rules in the battles. It was not like one could wait for the others to finish their battles after one battle. It was not like that. Some people had just finished their battles and it was their turn again after a few battles. It was completely based on the independent movement of the stone platform. Some people were unlucky and encountered terrifying geniuses at the beginning. For example, some people encountered Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, Ancient Demon, and the others. They were almost defeated in one move and could not resist at all. Lu Ming also saw Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli make their moves. After all, the two of them had not cultivated for long and were considered rising stars. They had not broken through to the martial emperor realm. However, they had reached the stage of evolving small worlds and were only one step away from the martial emperor realm. As long as they consolidated for a while, they would be able to break through. They easily defeated their opponents. The stone platform moved. Lu Ming drifted forward and collided with the stone platform. Finally, it was Lu Ming's turn to fight. Lu Ming's first opponent was a quasi-emperor with a martial emperor physique. "Do you want to admit defeat?" Lu Ming asked seriously. Lu Ming was not interested in a quasi-emperor with a martial emperor physique. The difference was too great. "If you want me to admit defeat, it depends on whether you have the ability to do so," the opponent sneered. It was a young man wrapped in a black robe. His face was pale. At this moment, he took out a staff. "Curse, weakening. Curse, deadly poison. Curse, corrosion." The young man immediately made his move. He waved his staff and a stream of energy suddenly appeared on Lu Ming's body and shrouded him. "This is the law of curses." Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. The law of curses was an extremely rare law of kings. It was very strange and very powerful. With the power of curses, it could kill people without leaving a trace. A stream of strange energy from his body desperately drilled into Lu Ming's body. An ordinary quasi-emperor physique would not be able to withstand it. Chapter 21:12. Right now, Lu Ming's physical body was too strong. His essence energy surged, and his blood qi was like a furnace. Every muscle of his body was filled with explosive power. Roar! Lu Ming's body moved and a dragon's roar could be heard from his body. Every pore on his body spewed out blood and qi like flames. The strange energy that shrouded his body turned into smoke and dissipated with a sizzling sound. How can this be? The expression of the youth who controlled the curse law changed drastically. He wanted to use the curse law again to deal with Lu Ming. "Get down!" Lu Ming said as he threw a punch. This punch was a punch of pure physical strength. This punch was like a meteor crashing into the sea. Space exploded like the sea, forming circular ripples that pressed towards the other party. The other party grunted and went flying. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew out of the platform. This was after Lu Ming held back. Otherwise, he would have killed the other party. Lu Ming easily obtained victory. However, although Xiaoqun instantly defeated the other party, he did not attract too much attention. Although the curse law was strange and profound, that youth was only a quasi-emperor. Anyone present who was a martial emperor could kill him in one move. "Humph! You only defeated a quasi-emperor. I really hope that you can run into me." Mu Yang smiled coldly, and his gaze turned even colder. He really hoped that he could run into Lu Ming. Then, he could kill Lu Ming and wash away his previous humiliation. Lu Ming originally thought that his stone platform would move back. Unexpectedly, his stone platform did not move back. Instead, it moved and met with another stone platform. Consecutive battles. Many people were stunned for a moment before their expressions turned grave. This was the first time someone fought consecutively. They could not help being on guard. With the movement of the stone platforms, it seemed like anything was possible. They had to conserve their energy in the following battles. Otherwise, they would be at a disadvantage if they fought consecutively. This time, Lu Ming's opponent was a short-haired youth. He had sharp eyes and looked very valiant. Boom! Without any superfluous words, the other party directly burst forth with a terrifying aura. The aura brought about a strong wind as it pressed towards Lu Ming. Martial Emperor. The other party was a martial emperor with a king body. Mu Yang's eyes lit up. A martial emperor with a royal body would most likely be able to test out Lu Ming's strength. Not only Mu Yang, but some of the people from the Southern Theater of Operations were also moved. 2 years ago, Lu Ming's battle prowess was absolute. He was able to defeat Mu Yang and was called a seed expert. Many people wanted to know what realm he had reached 2 years later. Burial Earth, be buried for me! The other party made a move. His body moved horizontally. In the process of moving, his body seemed to have transformed into a stone tablet, suppressing Lu Ming. This stone tablet was extremely similar to a tombstone. Dong! Lu Ming clenched his fist and punched out, slamming it into the tombstone. The tombstone trembled and was sent flying, reverting back to its human form. Kill! The short-haired young man roared and charged at Lu Ming again. This time, his body glowed and a layer of black light emanated from his body. He waved his hands and pieces of tombstones appeared one by one, constantly suppressing Lu Ming. Burial Earth Law! Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. Today, he had seen some mysterious laws. The Burial Earth Law could bury everything and kill it. Its power was extremely shocking. The short-haired young man used the Burial Earth Law to turn into a tombstone. He wanted to bury Lu Ming. The short-haired young man had already stepped into the martial emperor realm. His strength had soared, and he was much stronger than the genius who controlled the curse law. Lu Ming clenched his fist and punched out continuously, shattering the tombstones in the air. In the end, the short-haired young man's attack reached its peak. Large tombstones appeared in the sky, and he wanted to bury Lu Ming. The power was extremely terrifying. If someone of the same level was buried in the tombstones, it would be difficult for them to come out. Boom! An even more shocking aura erupted from Lu Ming's body as the death law permeated the air. This caused the other geniuses' eyes to narrow. Each of the Elysian children was not simple. They were worthy of attention as they were their opponents to enter the top 10. The death chi on Lu Ming's body became thicker and thicker. Finally, it turned into a long river that surrounded him. The laws formed a river. He has not yet become a martial emperor, just a quasi-emperor. Many people let out a long breath, relaxing. A quasi-emperor was not to be feared. He was destined to be a supporting character. Ha ha! After being in that small world for 2 years, he is still only a quasi-emperor. It looks like his talent is really lacking. Mu Yang rejoiced and could not help but mock. Humph! Even if his cultivation is low, he can still beat you up. Have you forgotten what happened 2 years ago? Xiang Xiang was indignant and mocked. Although she did not recognize Lu Ming had helped them 2 years ago. She had a good impression of Lu Ming. Seeing Mu Yang mock Lu Ming, she also mocked him. At the mention of being beaten up, Mu Yang's expression turned unsightly as he said, "That was then and this is now. He does have some strength. However, if he meets me now, only death awaits him. I will make him die a miserable death. 1 step ahead, 1 step ahead. I have already become a martial emperor, but he is still a quasi-emperor. He will never be a match for me." Mu Yang smiled coldly, filled with confidence. Lu Xiang snorted coldly but did not say anything. At this moment, Lu Ming and the short-haired youth had already started fighting again. Lu Ming executed the death law, greatly increasing his combat prowess. When he executed the Death Eye, it was like combat weapons flew out of his eyes and destroyed the other party's tomb. Bang! In the end, Lu Ming charged over like a barbaric dragon, breaking through the other party's defenses and sending the short-haired youth flying off the stage. Lu Ming obtained victory in this battle. Did you see that? Even though he has not become a martial emperor, he can still defeat a martial emperor. Seeing that Lu Ming had won, Lu Xiang revealed a look of joy and gave Mu Yang a mocking look. It's just defeating a martial emperor. What's the big deal? Mu Yang smiled faintly. Although he said so, there was a trace of solemnity in his heart. Being able to defeat a martial emperor with a martial emperor's martial emperor physique was enough to prove how terrifying Lu Ming was. However, he was still confident that he could beat Lu Ming. There was still a big gap between a martial emperor and an Elysian child. After this battle, Lu Ming's stone platform was sent back. The battle continued. In the blink of an eye, another day had passed. Now, half of the original 320 stone platforms were left. Half of the participants had already been eliminated. At this moment, Luo Xiang encountered a terrifying opponent. Although Luo Xiang had already become a martial emperor, his opponent this time was also a martial emperor. Moreover, it was an Elysian child. There was no suspense in this battle. Although Luo Xiang tried his best and executed the speed law to the extreme, it was useless. His opponent directly broke through his speed law with terrifying strength and defeated Luo Xiang in a crushing manner. However, his opponent had no enmity with Luo Xiang. He only injured him and did not kill him. The subsequent battles became more and more brutal. Chapter 21:13. Out of the 320 people, half of them were martial emperors. This was extremely shocking. 2 years ago, there were only a few people who had reached the martial emperor realm. But now, half of them had reached the martial emperor realm. One could imagine how much progress they had made in that world. Thus, the crowd could not help but think about how strong those who had reached the martial emperor realm 2 years ago were. Everyone looked at Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, and the others. These people were martial emperors 2 years ago. Now, they were even more unfathomable. They stood calmly on the stone platform. Previously, they had also made a move, but their opponent's strength was too low, and they were all easily killed by them. Many people started to reevaluate the seated experts. They started to guess which 10 people would be able to enter the top 10. As for Lu Ming, he was naturally excluded. In the eyes of others, Lu Ming had not reached the martial emperor realm and had already been eliminated from the competition. The battles became more intense. They were all martial emperors. Moreover, those who were fighting were at least king bodies. Although many of them were one-star empty emperors, the Elysian children with king bodies were much stronger than ordinary one-star empty emperors. Many people were eliminated. Long Qin, Huang Li, Autumn Moon, Luo Tianyi, and the others were eliminated one after another. They had all encountered terrifying opponents, the Elysian children. Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli were also eliminated. Their cultivations were still too weak and they had not reached the martial emperor realm. It was difficult for them to compete with the Elysian children who had reached the martial emperor realm. Fortunately, they were all fine. At most, they were injured. This made Lu Ming feel relieved. Boom! Mu Yang fought. He was indeed powerful. A martial emperor with king body was almost killed by him. Half of his body was turned into nothingness. The martial emperor with king body rushed out of the stone platform with difficulty and escaped death. After Mu Yang won, he cast a provocative look at Lu Ming. It was obvious that he was provoking him. Tianyun, you better pray that you don't meet me. Otherwise, you're dead. Mu Yang sent a message to Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even look at Mu Yang, directly ignoring him. After that, Lu Ming was unsure if he was lucky or unlucky, but in the next few days, he only went to battle once. He encountered a cultivator with a monarch body who had achieved the martial monarch realm and defeated him. On the 10th day of the duel, there were only 50 people left. The reason why it was so slow was mainly because there were many people with similar cultivation levels. The battle was incomparably intense, and it was not easy to determine victory or defeat. There were even people who fought fiercely for half a day before victory or defeat was decided. It was extremely bitter. The remaining 50 people were all terrifying geniuses. There weren't many people left with king bodies, and most of them were Elysian children. Of the 10 lands, with the exception of the wasteland, each of the other 9 lands had a few Elysian children, especially the divine fate lands, which had even more. In total, there were more than 50 Elysian children. More than 50 Elysian children gathered in one era. This was something that had never happened in the primordial realm. Legend had it that such a grand occasion had only occurred in the heaven realm in the distant past. Of the remaining 50 or so people, only Lu Ming was at the quasi-emperor realm. That quasi-emperor is called Tianyun? That's right. His name is Tianyun. His luck is pretty good. He hasn't encountered anyone too strong. Yes, his luck has come to an end. There are almost no weaklings. His combat strength is astonishing among his peers. Unfortunately, his cultivation is too weak. Without achieving the martial monarch realm, he will be eliminated in the end. Around them, some people were discussing and expressing their opinions. At this moment, 2 more stone platforms collided. Many people's hearts skipped a beat. Even Lu Ming revealed an expectant look. This was because one of the 2 people was the ancient demon. Lu Ming knew very well that the ancient demon cultivated the ancient demon path, and his combat strength was extremely powerful. After 4 to 5 years, the ancient demon would definitely be even more shocking. His combat strength would definitely be unfathomable. The other person was definitely not weak. He was also an Elysian child. Like Xiang Xiang, he controlled the law of life and had also broken through to the martial monarch realm. This would be a battle between the strong. The 2 of them did not say anything else, and directly attacked. The Elysian child controlled the law of life. With a wave of his hand, the sky was filled with vines as thick as an arm. Each of the vines was extremely tough, like a divine sword, and their killing power was shocking. However, the ancient demon was stronger. His entire body was covered with a layer of demonic light. The demonic light condensed into a battle saber in his hand. He directly charged into the vines that filled the sky. As the battle saber slashed down, the vines were constantly shattered. Some of the vines wrapped around his body, but they were directly shattered by the demonic light on his body. Strong, too strong. As soon as he attacked, the ancient demon had an absolute advantage. He broke through the layers of obstacles and charged at his opponent. The other party used all his strength but was still at a disadvantage. It was difficult for him to match up. This stunned many people. They found it hard to believe. What's going on with him? Why can't I feel the fluctuations of laws on his body? Some youths had never heard of the ancient demon path. At this moment, they shouted in surprise. This should be the ancient demon path, the ancient demon path. An older generation figure spoke and explained. This shocked many people and made them somewhat disappointed. The ancient demon path was so powerful that it could suppress the Elysian child. Don't be discouraged. Now that the law path is flourishing, it naturally has its advantages. The ancient demon path is not so easy to cultivate. That's right. The ancient demon path's cultivation conditions are extremely harsh. Moreover, not every ancient demon path's cultivation system is so powerful. The ancient demon is obviously a peerless genius who cultivates the ancient demon path. Some older generation figures explained so that the youths would not be discouraged. At this moment, the ancient demon's attacks were becoming more and more violent. The demonic light on his body was condensed to the extreme. It was unstoppable and constantly broke through his opponent's attacks and defenses. Pun! In the end, both sides exchanged dozens of blows. The opponent was no match for the ancient demon and was sent flying. An Elysian child who had stepped into the martial emperor realm had been defeated. The Elysian child had always been synonymous with invincibility. Apart from other Elysian children, no one could be a match for them. However, today, he had been defeated by a genius from the ancient demon path. This ancient demon is too strong. His attack power is unparalleled. There is a high chance that he will enter the top 10. Yes, there is a high chance that he will be one of the top 10. Many people were optimistic about the ancient demon. Next, after a few more battles, the remaining Elysians with king bodies were all defeated and eliminated. Bubble is going to attack. Lu Ming's eyes moved. He saw Bubble's stone platform move forward and collide with another stone platform. Such a small child, she shouldn't be from the human race. Someone looked at Bubble. She looked to be 2 or 3 years old. She was pink and extremely cute. Some young women's eyes lit up. They wished that they could hug Bubble in their arms and fiercely love her. She is not from the human race. This little girl's origin is very shocking. Chapter 21:14. Many people were even more curious when they heard what the older great emperor said. Senior, what is her true form? Someone asked. You'll know when you see it. She'll most likely reveal her true form in this battle. The great emperor smiled. Bubble's opponent was a very tall and sturdy man. He was almost 3 meters tall, and had muscles all over his body like a dragon. In front of him, Bubbles really looked like a small dot. Little fella, reveal your true form. Otherwise, I won't be able to kill you when you're so tiny, the burly man said in a low, muffled voice. Big fella, don't think that you can defeat me just because you're big. If you want me to reveal my true form, we'll have to see what you're capable of. Bubble pouted, her face full of disdain. Little fella, let's see how capable you are. The burly man grinned. In the next moment, he charged at Bubble like a mountain. Boom! He threw out a punch, causing the void to tremble. He was a son of primordial chaos who controlled the primordial law. I'll spit it out! Bubble exclaimed. She opened her small mouth and blew out a transparent bubble that enveloped her opponent. At the same time, Bubble's figure flashed and disappeared. However, the void rippled. The space shattered like a mirror and turned into terrifying sharp swords that slashed at the burly man. Space-time law! The burly man roared and threw out punches. The transparent bubble shattered and then blasted at the spatial swords. However, when he threw out his fist, the speed of his fists became extremely slow. It was as slow as a turtle. Everyone knew that the burly man was affected by the time law. The time in the void had slowed down, causing the speed of his fist to become extremely slow. Break it! The burly man roared and the primordial law erupted. The primordial law was very similar to the primordial law. It was as heavy as a mountain and every move contained boundless power. The burly man wanted to break through the restraints of Bubble's space-time law with absolute power. As expected, the burly man unleashed his full strength. The speed of his fist suddenly increased and blasted all the spatial swords. The fist did not stop and continued to attack Bubble. However, the space-time law was unpredictable. Bubble's figure flashed and disappeared. She shuttled through the void and appeared behind the burly man. She continued to attack him. After Bubble broke through to Martial Emperor, her usage of the space-time laws became even more profound. Her various unfathomable means were stronger than before. Space-time spirit rats were born with the ability to control space-time laws. The further they advanced, the more terrifying their control over space-time became. Otherwise, how could the space-time spirit mouse be known as one of the top 10 beasts? Boom! The burly young man quickly turned around and blasted backward. However, Bubble's figure disappeared again. Just like that, the two of them exchanged dozens of blows before the burly youth gradually lost his patience. Xiao Budian, if you continue to waste time with me, either of us will be able to do anything to each other. The burly young man roared. Who said that? Chirp! Bubbles shouted and suddenly appeared above the burly man. Both of his hands were waving non-stop. With the burly man as the center, the void rippled like water and transformed into a wave of killing power that shot towards the burly man. Furthermore, with the acceleration of the power of time, the spatial slaughter energy was astonishingly fast. In the blink of an eye, it was already right in front of the burly young man. The burly young man was shocked. He quickly set up layers of defenses around his body to block Bubbles' attack. Rumbling sounds could be heard. At that moment, Bubble opened his small mouth and continuously spat out bubbles. Hundreds of transparent bubbles appeared and then disappeared. The next moment, all of them shrouded the burly young man. The big bubbles covered the small bubbles and shrouded the burly young man in layers. Break, break, break! The burly young man continued to bombard the bubbles, trying to break them. When he smashed all these transparent bubbles, Bubbles stopped and looked at him with a smile, saying, "Big guy, you lost, chirp chirp." "What?" The burly young man was stunned. Then, he looked around and his face turned bitter. It turned out that he had unknowingly left the range of the stone platform. Leaving the stone platform meant that he had lost. "Senior, didn't you say that she would reveal her true form?" Someone asked the senior from before. This little guy is very smart. When the opponent was careless, she used the space-time laws to move the opponent's body out of the battle platform. I thought that she could only win by revealing her true form. The old man explained awkwardly. Bubble has become stronger. As expected, following me has restrained her and prevented her from unlocking the potential of the space-time spirit mouse. Lu Ming smiled. After Bubble won, the stone platform flew back. The burly young man's stone platform turned to dust and dissipated. He could only withdraw helplessly. He had reached the end of this battle of 10 Earths. Next, every battle was very exciting. It could be said that it was a battle between the strong. There were even Elysian children of the same laws fighting fiercely. Lu Ming saw Yu He fighting against another child of reincarnation. The two of them exchanged more than 1,000 moves before Yu He won with difficulty. However, he was also seriously injured. After winning, he hurriedly healed his injuries. There was also Death Blade who fought against his opponent. After exchanging a few hundred moves, he also won with difficulty. However, there were a few people who won easily. For example, Monk Wuliang was now stronger. He defeated an Elysian child of the martial emperor realm in a crushing manner. Yuan Xian was the same. He was strong and domineering. In less than 10 moves he finished his battle. However, the one who made Lu Ming's expression the most serious was the Child of Destiny. This time, there were many geniuses. There were dozens of Elysian children, but only one of them controlled the law of destiny. Only Lu Ming and Yuan Xian controlled the law of primal chaos. They had the fewest people among the Elysian children. The Child of Destiny was too strong and unfathomable. It was difficult to measure his combat strength. The reason for that was because his fighting style was too peculiar and too shocking. When he fought with his opponent, he only said one sentence, and his opponent was defeated. He said that his opponent was destined to be defeated. Then, his opponent was inexplicably injured and sent flying off the stone platform. This fighting style was simply inconceivable. It shocked countless people. Controlling the law of destiny can control the fate of all things in the world, an older emperor said. Countless people were shocked. Controlling the law of destiny could really control the fate of all things in the world. Didn't that mean that whoever he said would die would die? If that was the case, wouldn't it be too terrifying? He was like a god that ruled over everything. However, another emperor said, in order to use the law of destiny, one had to rely on one's own strength. For example, the Child of Destiny was now in the Void Emperor realm. It was impossible for him to kill a true emperor. The other party's strength was enough to withstand the law of destiny's attack. Everyone nodded. This made sense. Otherwise, the law of destiny would be too terrifying. Chapter 21:15. The competition continued and there were only a few dozen stone platforms left moving in the sky. As time passed, the number became fewer and fewer. After that, a few more people attracted everyone's attention. A true dragon was incomparably powerful and had unparalleled offensive power. However, there were no fluctuations of laws on his body. A great emperor deduced that he cultivated the immemorial path of demons. The immemorial path of demons was also a type of immemorial path of demons. There was another person who was completely black and looked like an iron tower. He had boundless strength, and there seemed to be no energy fluctuations on his body. He only relied on the strength of his physical body to send a martial Emperor realm Elysian child flying out of the battle platform. Everyone was shocked. Some great emperors speculated that this should also be a type of immemorial path of demons, immemorial body cultivators. They specialized in body cultivation, and the strength of their physical body had reached an earth-shattering level. Some great emperors explained that in the immemorial path of demons, there were body cultivators who could strike down the stars in the sky with just their physical body. It was terrifying to the extreme. There was a burst of discussion. The Battle of the Ten Lands was really unexpected. There were too many experts. Even geniuses of the immemorial path of demons appeared one after another. Immemorial path of demons, immemorial path of demons, immemorial body cultivators appeared one after another and suppressed the Elysian child. Many people speculated that the three of them could enter the top 10. Then, Lu Ming saw that Xing Xinhe also defeated his opponent. After coming out of the Lotus World, Xing Xinhe had disappeared and never appeared again. However, there was no doubt that this person who had always been the number one genius of Yuan Mountain had become stronger. His opponent was also a Elysian child, but he still defeated his opponent in a domineering manner, attracting attention. After Xing Xin had defeated his opponent, the stone platform under Lu Ming's feet moved forward. "Is it finally my turn? Mu Yang," Lu Ming whispered, and then his expression became interesting. The reason for that was because the other stone platform that moved over was actually Mu Yang. What a coincidence! A wisp of killing intent flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. As for Mu Yang himself, he was also stunned. Then, a cold killing intent spread out like a blade. Bang! The two stone platforms collided. "Ha ha, Tianyun, you're really unlucky. This time, I'll make sure you die miserably." Mu Yang let out a cold laugh. He was too excited. He had been looking forward to meeting Lu Ming. He did not expect that he would really meet him. This time, he was going to avenge himself. "Why do I feel like I'm very lucky?" Lu Ming smiled. Tianyun encountered Mu Yang. 2 years ago, Mu Yang was defeated by Tianyun and was almost eliminated. However, in the past 2 years, Tianyun did not seem to have improved much and did not break through to the martial emperor realm. On the other hand, Mu Yang has already become a martial emperor. His battle prowess is definitely above Tianyun's. In the battle between geniuses, combat power is important, but so is potential. It seems that Tianyun's potential is not good enough. His future achievements will be limited. Some people were discussing. Some people felt that although Lu Ming's battle prowess was strong, his potential was not enough. Even if he could become a great emperor in the future, it would probably be very difficult for him to achieve much. Bang! Bang! Mu Yang stepped towards Lu Ming. His martial emperor cultivation was fully displayed. His aura swept towards Lu Ming like a gale. In such an environment, you still have not broken through to the martial emperor realm. You are really a piece of trash. In the future you will never be my opponent. No, there is no future. Today, you will die. Mu Yang sneered as his aura grew stronger. You talk too much. Kill! Lu Ming suddenly shouted and charged towards Mu Yang. His eyes were filled with the light of death as he attacked fiercely. You! Mu Yang wanted to continue acting tough, but he did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly attack. He did not follow the rules at all. He roared and retreated rapidly. His hands pressed forward, and the law of nothingness destroyed Lu Ming's attack. Even if you sneak attack, you are still not my opponent. Ah! Mu Yang wanted to ridicule Lu Ming, but Lu Ming's attack power suddenly increased. His speed also increased. He directly smashed Mu Yang's attack and slapped Mu Yang's face. Mu Yang let out a miserable scream as his body flew out like a sandbag. He almost flew off the stone platform. He was too miserable. His face was already badly mangled, almost exploding. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Was Lu Ming so strong that he could actually beat Mu Yang? Despicable man, it was just a sneak attack. Some Mu clan experts refused to admit their mistake. I will kill you! Mu Yang roared and dashed toward Lu Ming as if he had gone mad. He exploded with all his strength and rushed towards Lu Ming. A sea formed by the law of nothingness enveloped Lu Ming. Originally, he thought that he could easily beat Lu Ming. He did not expect that he would be beaten so badly by Lu Ming at the start of the battle. He was mad with hatred and wished he could cut Lu Ming into pieces. Lu Ming stood motionless, allowing the sea of nothingness to envelop him. Die for me! Mu Yang roared and exploded with power. His small world revolved. The power of his small world and the law of nothingness worked together to turn Lu Ming into nothingness. However, a river of law revolved around Lu Ming's body, constantly blocking the invasion of the law of nothingness. It's just a river of law. You can't stop me. Die! Mu Yang roared. The sea of nothingness transformed into all kinds of attacking power and attacked Lu Ming. Is that so? Then what if I add another kind? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Suddenly, another river of law appeared on his body. This was a river of law formed by the law of Array Dao. 2 rivers of law revolved around him. How is this possible? Mu Yang roared in disbelief. Hadn't Lu Ming not broken through to Martial Emperor? How could he control 2 kinds of law? 2 kinds of law? How is this possible? He hasn't broken through to Martial Emperor, but he can control 2 kinds of law. One is the strongest law, and the other is the law of kings. The scene was in an uproar. Many people shouted in shock. Being able to control 2 kinds of law without breaking through to Martial Emperor was beyond their imagination. Only the Martial Emperors were calm. They were not surprised. Many people had seen Lu Ming's previous attacks. Today I'll kill you, Lu Ming said coldly. His arms shook, and the 2 kinds of law merged. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. Mu Yang's sea of nothingness shook violently, and then exploded. Lu Ming had 5 kinds of law perfection. After 5 rounds of tempering, his physical body and saint energy were too strong, far surpassing those of the same level. Just his physical body and saint energy were already powerful. Now that he had merged the law of death and the law of Array Dao, he exploded and broke Mu Yang's sea of nothingness. Mu Yang's body shook violently, and he almost vomited blood. Swoosh! Lu Ming's body was like a bolt of lightning. He approached Mu Yang and struck out with his palm. Mu Yang tried his best to block, but it was useless. His arm collided with Lu Ming's arm, and it almost broke. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn, and blood flowed. Bam! Bam! Chapter 21:16. Ah! Mu Yang screamed miserably. His face was filled with fear. He turned around and fled, trying to escape from the stone platform. But how could Lu Ming let him do as he wished? He must kill Mu Yang. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and caught up with Mu Yang in an instant. He blasted a palm on Mu Yang's back. Mu Yang screamed miserably. His body was penetrated, and there was a big hole that penetrated the front and back of his body. Now, his arms were crippled, his body was penetrated, his battle prowess was greatly reduced, he was even less able to contend against Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming leaped up and kicked Mu Yang's face. Mu Yang's body slammed heavily onto the stone platform, causing the stone platform to rumble. A series of cracking sounds could be heard from his body. Dozens of bones were broken. Then, Lu Ming stepped on Mu Yang's face, making him unable to move. This is very similar to the first time Mu Yang challenged Lu Ming. He was also trampled on by Lu Ming and lost all his face. Ah, Tianyun, I must kill you! I want you to die without a burial ground! Mu Yang crazily roared. He has really gone crazy. Before the great battle, he was still acting all high and mighty, saying that Lu Ming would definitely die a horrible death. He even mocked Lu Ming for being a good-for-nothing with no potential, unable to break through to Martial Emperor, and that Lu Ming would never be his match. But now, how many moves has it been since the battle started? He is like a wild dog being trampled on by Lu Ming. This kind of humiliation is driving him crazy. You still dare to threaten me in this kind of situation? Lu Ming was indifferent. He waved his hand and 2 rays of light bombarded Mu Yang's legs, causing them to explode. Ah! Mu Yang let out a hysterical, miserable shriek. Although with his current cultivation, even if only his head was left, he could regrow his flesh and restore his body. But this kind of pain is real. Now his 4 limbs were crippled, his body was penetrated, he suffered heavy injuries, he is in incomparable pain. Tianyun, you dare to kill me? The experts of my Mu clan are right here. If you dare to kill me, you'll have to face the revenge of my Mu clan. Mu Yang roared. He was certain that Lu Ming would not dare to kill him. He stared viciously at Lu Ming. As long as he didn't die, he would definitely kill Lu Ming in the future, no matter what method he had to use. Bang! Lu Ming's expression became cold, and he directly stomped down. Mu Yang's head was like a watermelon that exploded. Then, a soul flew out and was caught by Lu Ming. It was Mu Yang's soul. At that moment, fear filled the face of Mu Yang's soul. He never thought that Lu Ming would actually dare to kill him. Was he not afraid of the Mu clan's revenge? You're courting death! The experts of the Mu clan were truly enraged. Someone roared, his aura shocking. It was as if the entire world was trembling. Without a doubt, this was a great emperor from the Mu clan. Mu Yang was done for. His physical body was completely destroyed, and only his soul was left. Even if he was reborn, he would not have the same achievements as before. This made the experts of the Mu clan furious. They immediately wanted to attack and kill Lu Ming. But in the next moment, at least 10 cold gazes swept towards the great emperor of the Mu clan. The great emperor of the Mu clan felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. He was instantly extinguished, and his aura was retracted. This was the Battle of 10 Earths. The great emperors of various regions were gathered here, and no one was allowed to disturb them. If he attacked, a group of great emperors would probably attack and kill him. Tianyun, you'd better let Mu Yang go. The great emperor of the Mu clan did not dare to attack, and could only threaten. Lu Ming sneered, too lazy to care. Tianyun, let me go. I beg you, let me go. At this moment, Mu Yang was truly afraid. He knew that he had encountered a lawless person who was not afraid of him at all. Lu Ming's gaze was cold. He had no intention of letting Mu Yang go. With Mu Yang's personality, letting him go might be more dangerous. He would definitely take revenge and would not give up. So, what was the difference whether he let Mu Yang go or not? If I let you go, you'll find assassins from the nation of death to assassinate me? Lu Ming said coldly. Mu Yang was stunned, then his face twisted with disbelief. In the end, he shouted hysterically, You're Lu Ming, you're not dead. Mu Yang's screams spread in all directions and everyone heard it. Many people were stunned. What? He's Lu Ming, the son of Chaos Lu Ming? Didn't the people from the Nation of Death say that they've already killed Lu Ming? Is he not dead? Many people discussed in shock. At this moment, the eyes of the son of Chaos Yuan Xian shone like 2 stars as he looked at Lu Ming. Xing Xing He's energy burst out, and his body was bathed in white light as he stared at Lu Ming. He's Lu Ming! Qiu Yu, Huang Ling, Long Qin, and the others were overjoyed. Master, it must be Master! Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli were also overjoyed. They finally understood why Lu Ming had helped them. They didn't know who he was, but Lu Ming helped them. They were puzzled before, but now they finally understood. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Ming. So, he's Lu Ming! Some Emperor Realm experts whispered. They had already seen through Lu Ming's true appearance, but they hadn't seen Lu Ming before, so they didn't know that he was Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't hide it. His body began to change, revealing his true appearance. It's really Lu Ming! Some people who had seen Lu Ming before exclaimed in disbelief. Ha ha ha, I told you, how could Lu Ming die? Huang Li laughed. Death Nation, they really know how to blow their own trumpet. Ouyang Wushuang also laughed. Young master, Qiu Yu was overjoyed. Some people who were familiar with Lu Ming were overjoyed. Although they didn't believe that Lu Ming was dead, they couldn't help but worry. Death Nation, an assassin organization, was too terrifying. They were afraid that it might be true. Now that they saw Lu Ming, they were finally relieved. Why isn't he dead? The countenances of some of Lu Ming's enemies changed and they became very ugly. Experts from Hung family, He family, Daluo Heaven sect, Wan family, Golden Crow clan, Sky Wolf Pagoda, and other forces stood in the crowd, feeling indignant and regretful. They couldn't wait for Lu Ming to be killed. This was especially so for the forces in the ancient Moon Holy Land. Lu Ming was getting stronger and stronger. He was giving them too much pressure, and they were very worried. It's really you! The son of chaos, Yuan Xian, was shrouded in chaotic light. He was like a god of war, staring at Lu Ming. He had been invincible all his life and rarely suffered losses. However, during the assessment of Hun Yuan sect, he suffered a great loss. He was defeated by Lu Ming and lost the last inheritance. Moreover, the inheritance of the Chaos Emperor was also in the hands of Lu Ming. He and Lu Ming were bound to fight. That's not right. How could he be Lu Ming? Isn't he the son of death who controls the law of death? Someone calmed down and finally found the problem. Lu Ming used the law of death previously. However, Lu Ming was the son of chaos. The scene was very lively and many people were discussing. Now, it suddenly quieted down and there was no sound at all. Everyone stared at Lu Ming with their eyes wide open. They couldn't wait to see through Lu Ming. Even those great emperors were the same. Huan Ling and those who were close to Lu Ming were also the same. They were in disbelief. Chapter 21:17. A single person had actually mastered 2 supreme laws? Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to believe it. Some even suspected that someone had disguised himself as Lu Ming. However, a great emperor spoke up to prove that this was Lu Ming's true appearance, and that he had not disguised himself. Whoosh! The scene was in an uproar. One person could actually control 2 supreme laws at the same time, and they were below the martial emperor realm. Then, in addition to the array Dao law from before, wouldn't Lu Ming control 3 supreme laws? It was a complete uproar. This was unprecedented. Heavens, it's heaven-defying! Lu Ming is going to defy the heavens! One person controlling 2 supreme laws at the same time, how is it possible? Even a martial emperor can't do it! The supreme laws are incompatible. This has been the truth since ancient times, and now the truth has been broken. Many people shouted, even many of the older generation were the same, mainly because the impact was too great. It was as if the truth that they had always believed in had collapsed in an instant, and they could not calm down. Even the Thearchs could not calm down, looking at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a monster. How is this possible? How is this possible? Those who had a grudge with Lu Ming, such as the Hung family, were all in disbelief. Boom! At this moment, Yuan Xian, Destiny's Child, and the other strongest geniuses could not stay calm, and a terrifying aura erupted from their bodies. Invincible! Big brother Lu Ming is invincible! Bubbles screamed even louder. Master is invincible! Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli also cheered. Lu Ming touched his nose. He knew that once he revealed his true identity, it would definitely cause an uproar and shock the world. However, he still did not hide it. Because if he faced Yuan Xian, Destiny's Child, and the others later, he would definitely not be able to hide it, and would have to use his full strength. Sooner or later, he would be exposed. In addition, now that the energy in the heavenly Thearcha's body had been stored up to 36%, he had confidence and fewer worries. If the Mu clan wanted to make a move on him, Xiang, Qiu Yu, and the others after the 10 Earths battle ended, he could just take them and run. In any case, the heavenly monarch's physical body was shockingly strong. Not to mention, there was still Emperor Wu Xiang, Uncle Kong, and the others. At this moment, Uncle Kong, Emperor Wu Xiang, and the others were unable to calm down as they stroked their beards with all their might. They had lived for countless years, but this was the first time they had seen something like this. "Ah, let me go!" At this moment, Mu Yang was nearly scared to death as he screamed crazily. One person could actually control two supreme laws. No wonder his combat prowess was so terrifying. He was about to be scared to death. "Mu Yang, it was you who ordered the Death God Nation to assassinate me, right?" Lu Ming said coldly. "Lu Ming, spare my life!" Mu Yang screamed in terror. Many people's hearts stirred. It seemed that this was really Mu Yang's doing. He had asked the people from the Nation of Death to assassinate Lu Ming. They did not know what method Lu Ming had used to avoid death. Moreover, the people from the Nation of Death had mistakenly thought that they had killed Lu Ming. Despicable, you can't defeat my master, but you secretly ordered assassins to kill him. Damn it! Master, kill him! Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli were filled with righteous indignation. They couldn't wait to kill Mu Yang personally. "Mu Yang, rest in peace," Lu Ming said. Then, under Mu Yang's terrified gaze, he clenched his fist and a terrifying force directly crushed Mu Yang's soul, causing his soul to scatter. Damn it! The Mu family's great emperor roared as his eyes were extremely sinister. An Elysian child was killed just like that. Their hearts were bleeding. A king body was said to have the potential to become a great emperor, and an Elysian child was undoubtedly stronger. The chances of them breaking through to the great emperor realm were very high, and they could even take a step closer and touch the supreme heavenly emperor realm. Such a genius would be treated as a treasure by any force. But now, he was killed by Lu Ming in front of everyone, and his soul scattered. After killing Mu Yang, the stone platform that represented Mu Yang turned into a puff of green smoke and dissipated. Lu Ming returned to the stone platform and floated back. Pairs of eyes fell on Lu Ming. Some were filled with solemnity, while others were filled with intense battle intent. Previously, no one took Lu Ming seriously. No matter how strong a quasi-emperor was, he wouldn't be a threat to them. But now, it was different. Lu Ming had killed Mu Yang, and for the first time, he had mastered two supreme laws. Most importantly, Lu Ming didn't use the law of primal chaos when he killed Mu Yang. If he used the law of primal chaos and the law of death, how powerful would it be? Everyone reevaluated Lu Ming's battle strength. Of course, there were also people who didn't think highly of Lu Ming. They thought that mastering two supreme laws at the same time was already unprecedented. It was impossible to fuse two supreme laws and increase the power of the two supreme laws. Many people agreed with this point of view. While everyone was unable to calm down, the competition continued. After Lu Ming and Mu Yang's battle, there were only 20 or so people left. It could be said that those who remained were all experts among experts. Every battle attracted everyone's attention. Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wuliang, and the others still defeated their opponents. Death Blade had finally reached the end. He encountered a true dragon that seemed to cultivate the immemorial demonic Tao. It was incomparably powerful. Although Death Blade did his best, he was still not a match for it. After a few dozen moves, he was defeated. Eternal Star River also encountered a powerful opponent. However, he was indeed very strong. After exchanging over 100 moves with his opponent, he narrowly won. Bubble also defeated his opponent. When it was Lu Ming's turn again, his opponent was not strong. He was slightly weaker than Mu Yang and was defeated by Lu Ming. Slowly, there were only 13 people left. 13 stone platforms floated in the air, sizing each other up. These 13 people could be said to be very strong. Among them, Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wuliang, the true dragon that cultivated the immemorial demonic Tao, the immemorial physique cultivator, and the space-time child were the ones who received the most attention. Because these people had stepped into the martial emperor realm 2 years ago. 2 years later, they were undoubtedly stronger. Their strength was unfathomable. However, these people had yet to encounter each other. Could it be related to the stone platforms? Lu Ming pondered. Perhaps the stone platforms could also roughly distinguish the strong and weak. Therefore, some of the strongest people would automatically avoid them. This was very likely. If some of the strongest people encountered them first, it would be unfair. The stone platforms rotated. Then, 2 stone platforms flew out and collided with each other. One of them was Destiny's Child. The person who collided with Destiny's Child had an ugly expression. He actually encountered Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child's name was Tianming. Using Destiny City as his name, one could see that his heart was higher than the heavens. Moreover, he was worthy of this name. Tianming was dressed in white. His long hair reached his waist. He was unbelievably handsome, like the legendary god's child. Chapter 21:18. Destiny's Child, Tianming, was thought to be the most likely candidate to win the competition. Before the competition, Yuan Xian was the only one who was thought to be able to compete with Tianming. Of course, there were many dark horses now, such as Wu Liang, the True Dragon, and the Primordial Physique Cultivator. However, most people still thought that Tianming would have no problem winning the competition. Destiny's Child controlled fate, and there were only a few in history. Almost every one of them stood at the peak and became a peak expert. "Do you want to admit defeat?" Tianming asked his opponent calmly with a smile on his face. "Among the top 10 laws, the law of destiny is faintly superior to the other laws. I want to experience it," the young man said. He was also a very powerful child of heaven. 2 years ago, he was about to become a great emperor. After 2 years of cultivation, his cultivation had reached the peak of 1-star void emperor. How could he surrender without a fight? Tianming shook his head and said, "From the moment you said that, your fate was already sealed. You will lose. What bullshit fate is this? My fate is up to me, not the heavens. No one can control my fate!" The young man shouted and charged at Tianming. "You are destined to be struck by lightning," Tianming said with a smile. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, endless lightning appeared out of nowhere and struck at his opponent. Every bolt of lightning was multicolored. There were 5 different colors, and they were as thick as an arm. Their power was shocking. The densely packed lightning directly drowned the young man. The young man let out a long howl and unleashed a crazy burst of power, using a divine ability to resist the lightning. "Your fate is to be burned by fire," Tianming said again. Then, endless flames appeared. They were incomparably terrifying flames that drowned the young man. "Your fate is to be cut by a blade. Your fate is to be hammered," Tianming said continuously. Every word he said was coming true. All kinds of attacks were launched at his opponent endlessly. Finally, the young man couldn't resist anymore. He vomited blood and was sent flying out of the stage. Tianming, on the other hand, had a smile on his face from beginning to end. He stood on the stone stage in his white robe, not moving a single step. He was extraordinary. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, shocked beyond words. The law of fate was too terrifying. Could it really decide one's fate? If he said that the other party was going to be struck by lightning, then he was going to be struck by lightning. If he was going to be slashed by a saber, then he was going to be slashed by a saber. It was as if he was controlling the fate of others. Even Lu Ming had a serious look in his eyes. Heaven's Will stone platform flew back. There were still 12 people left. After another 20% of the competition, the top 10 would be determined. Soon, 2 more stone platforms flew out and collided with each other. Everyone was shocked again. This time, the one who stepped out was Yuan Xian. His opponent's face also darkened. In the eyes of others, Yuan Xian was someone who could compete with Tianming. Encountering him was just bad luck. Boom! Yuan Xian directly attacked, domineering and overbearing. His primal chaos divine fist was unparalleled in terms of offensive power. The moment he attacked, he would crush his opponent crazily. His opponent might be powerful, but he was still at a disadvantage. He was no match for him at all. Yuan Xian's cultivation is definitely not a 1-star empty emperor. I'm afraid he's already a 2-star empty emperor. Someone guessed. Many people nodded. This was normal. Yuan Xian had already become an empty emperor 2 years ago. In the past 2 years, he had encountered many opportunities. How could he not have improved? Not long after, Yuan Xian's opponent was defeated. He coughed up blood and left the battle platform. After Yuan Xian retreated, there were still 11 people left. Then, 2 more stone platforms collided with each other. It's him, an archaic body cultivator. Lu Ming's eyes moved, revealing a look of interest. One of them was the archaic body cultivator named Bao De. This person was almost 3 meters tall. He was bald and his body was pitch black like a piece of black coal or a piece of black steel. He seemed to be filled with endless power. Archaic body cultivators specialized in cultivating their physical bodies. Their physique was unparalleled and their power was endless. Lu Ming was very interested. His flesh had been tempered by the law 5 times in a row and contained 3 streaks of chaotic qi. It was already very powerful. But compared to Bao De, there was still a big gap. Bao De's opponent's face was also very ugly. This was because Bao De was also considered one of the strongest few people. Why were the opponents of the last 3 people facing the strongest ones? "Ha, little one, make your move!" Bao De grinned and walked towards the other party like a giant. Boom! Bao De made his move. It was simple and direct. He directly threw out a punch. This punch directly pierced through space. His pitch-black fist was like an immemorial divine mountain as it pressed down on the other party. His opponent was not weak either. He could be said to be very strong. He erupted with all his strength to resist Bao De. Unfortunately, he was still unable to match Bao De. Bao De's fist landed and directly pierced through the strongest law. His opponent's face changed drastically. He quickly retreated and was almost sent flying out of the stone platform by Bao De. "Little one, you can't do it!" "Ha!" Bao De laughed. His 3-meter-tall body directly charged towards his opponent at an astonishing speed. Boom! His opponent used all his strength and blasted out a divine ability. But when it landed on Bao De's body, it was useless. It did not break Bao De's defense. Bao De's body was like a divine weapon. He broke through his opponent's attack and then ruthlessly slammed into his opponent's body. His opponent groaned. Crackling sounds came from his body. Then, he vomited a large mouthful of blood. His body was directly sent flying out of the battle platform. Many people gasped. This Bao De was really terrifying. His strength was endless. He defeated his opponent in just a few moves. What a terrifying power! It's pure physical strength. In the crowd, Huang Li and Long Chen's faces were very solemn. They cultivated the law of force and were known as the ultimate strength. But compared to Bao De, they were far behind. After Bao De defeated his opponent, there were only 10 people left on the scene. The top 10 were born. They were Tian Ming, Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, Bao De, the true dragon Ao Ke, the space-time sun, Yun Haoge, Bubbles, Han Xinghe, Ancient Devil, and Lu Ming. Everyone's eyes fell on the 10 people. In the entire land of Yuan Mountain, there were countless geniuses. The 10 strongest geniuses were the focus of everyone's attention. All right, now that the top 10 have been born, I'll give you 3 days to recuperate. 3 days later, the final battle will begin. The white-haired old man stepped forward and announced. Master is too powerful. And Bubbles! Lu Xiangxiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others cheered excitedly. However, most of them did not look good because the geniuses that they thought highly of had failed and did not enter the top 10. Senior, I'm not convinced. At this moment, a voice sounded, causing everyone to quiet down. A young man stepped forward and cupped his fists at the white-haired old man. I'm not convinced either. Me too. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.